It's Monday, September 12th, 8:59 p.m. There's a lot of stuff happening every day. It's been an unreal week with Elizabeth's death and Barack Obama's portrait with a white background. And if you turn him sideways, it's a serpent's head. Turn that portrait on its side and it creates a serpent's head. Just say that serpent heads are coming everywhere. Everywhere I look are serpent heads. The serpent. What's the significance of this white portrait? Is that it's the first white portrait that has ever been done in presidential history. And on top of that, it's the first modern modernist portrait, contemporary modern style portrait. He had another one done by Kehinde Wiley that he's in foliage. And Michelle is her portrait. She's wearing the Tiffany blue, I think, this Phoenician colors. What else has happened? It's just moving forward. I don't want to go into so many things, but the big news is recent that Pope Francis is instructing the Vatican Bank, all the Vatican entities outside of Vatican cities, to move all funds and liquid assets back within the perimeter of the Vatican city itself, which is a sovereign state, just like the city in London and Washington, D.C., and they all have the Capitol and the obelisk, the Egyptian Masonic ancient mystery religion of Egypt. I see that new Vatican building with the snake's head, the auditorium. It's designed with a perfect snake's head. There's the Beyonce album. She's seated on this horse. It's all in red, and you can see this image, like subliminal imaging. If you're good at picking up subliminal images, like I am or others are who have that kind of artist eye, to see the images that are suggested. And it's again, these aren't things that are intentionally created by the photographer. They're things that appear. They might or they might not be. I think whether or not they're intentional or not, it's like the Led Zeppelin album. It's like the Stairway to Heaven that played backwards and forwards. Both have satanic or pagan, let's call them, lyrics. But in Jimmy Page's Religion of Thelema, which is Aleister Crowley's founded religion, they're specifically satanic. The album's inscribed with Crowley's foundation principle in the Book of the Law, which is do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. So whether or not it was reverse engineered by Page, and I don't think it was, because I believe in the Satan, I believe in satanic power. You listen to it backwards, listen to the whole thing, and hear what you hear. But it's pretty chilling stuff if you're aware of the reality of Satan. You're aware of the reality of the Antichrist. And those who aren't, that's their own business. I'm not here to sell them on my own beliefs. I'll read this. The Spirit of God says, the Pope and the Vatican, that's right, the Pope and the Vatican are not furthering my kingdom, but are aiding the kingdom of darkness. Many are saying that this was the last pope, but it's not for the reasons they think. This will be the last pope. For what I, the Lord God, am about to do, I will expose this pope and all those under his command for all the corruption he and the Vatican have been involved in for centuries. It's a quote from Mark Taylor. This date, the end of the month, September 30th, which is roughly, I can't do math, roughly 20, a little less than 20 days away now. October 1st, the German government has announced that the German army, which has been doing maneuvers and scaring the hell out of everybody, naturally, you see the German army back up in action for the first time since the Second World War inside, doing military maneuvers, and the announcement that on October 1st they'll begin joint patrols with law enforcement, so-called assisting law enforcement in platoons, marching through the streets. And this is going to coincide with the return of the mask mandates, the COVID mask mandates, but only for those who haven't been boosted and so on and so forth. Ireland's, this is October 1st, Ireland's largest bank will remove cash services from 70 of its branches. No cash in the cash machines or the tellers, if they even have tellers. This is by September 30th, by the end of this month. The Bank of England is taking all of their 20 and 50 pound notes out of circulation and no longer backing them. So if they aren't returned by the deadline of September 30th, the pound notes have no value. They have to be exchanged for brand new currency with polymer notes. And I haven't read this with any certainty, but I would say I'm 99% sure that these polymer notes are microchip encoded so that they're part of the new digital currency reset as prophesied or intended by Klaus Schwab in his remarks in 2020 at the World Economic Forum to what he calls the Great Reset, to have a digital currency system in place by 2030. So we're well short of it, but that's clearly the goal, and it seems to be they're moving in rapid order towards that stated goal of you will own nothing, but you will be happy. It couldn't be said better by Karl Marx or Chairman Mao or Bernie Sanders. I mean, that's what communism is. People are youth of today, I don't know what's the percentage, want a socialist form of government. Well, should try living in Nicaragua or like Bernie Sanders. He should be living in Cuba since he loves it so much, or in with the Sandinistas down in Nicaragua or in Moscow where he had his wedding. Why this lunacy of imagining that socialism and Marxism have never been done right in Russia or anywhere else? The United States is going to do socialism properly by how? With what Joe Biden is doing, by shutting off the oil supply and going into confrontation with Moscow and with Beijing, and with North Korea, and with Iran, and with all these other countries. And this is going to, I would remind everybody who's unfamiliar with world wars and with wars in general, is that there's a winner and there's a loser at the end of the day. And if we're in a war with all these nuclear superpowers, and our allies are the European NATO countries, which are now going into rapid decline and hyperinflation and rioting in one country after the next because of the shut off of their energy supply. Since we can't supply energy, we can supply military hardware and military weaponry, and the Ukraine can supply endless amounts of cannon fodder to the front, and we have no idea where the military equipment is going. Somewhere into the black market, probably to Iran or Afghanistan, just like the Taliban got all of our military weaponry. Why people imagine that this is a certain victory for the Allied powers of Europe and America, and who knows, because the situation is fluid in terms of where it's Turkey going to go. It looks to me like Turkey is a wild card that will attach itself to the Arab countries. And it looks to me that the South America, well, they've already, Mexico and Nicaragua has invited Russian troops and missiles, Cuba, the rest of South America. They're not exactly, the favorably disposed towards America after the Kissinger-Nixon years and forward. If anybody knows that history. Anyway, in America, PNC Bank and Chase and others have been announcing that they're going to be using ATM machines only, and moving toward going cashless. This means a movement towards a completely cashless, fully digitized financial system, which would have only one primary objective. This is to completely eliminate the ability of individuals to buy or sell merchandise without those transactions being recorded in a centralized computer database, meaning that all of any individual's purchases month by month, year by year, will be tracked by whoever is in control and command position over this database. The big tech companies and the governments and the corporations. Now, the elimination of the right of an individual citizen to buy and sell whatever he wants without computerized surveillance, storing those transactions digitally, means a complete loss of freedom. It's a surveillance system, and this is also consistent, I might add, with the Book of Revelation, Mark of the Beast, however that will appear, where people will not be able to buy or sell without taking this mark. I'm just throwing this out there for those that have ears to hear. This means, in practical effect, that if there is an individual governing authority, say Joe Biden, for example. If anybody recalls, Joe Biden used executive orders to cancel our oil industry. We had oil independence. When Joe Biden came into the office, and with a stroke of the pen, he canceled that oil production. So one of the effects of this was to give Russia the advantage now of being the only energy supply for Europe. And to have Joe Biden going over to Saudi Arabia to beg on his knees and fist bump the tyrants there, the dictators, torturers, and murderers, where the left pounces on them for being soft on Arab terrorism, but he's begging for oil. So as Marx would say, capitalism is going to die from its internal contradictions. This looks like communism is as well. The upshot of it is that Biden used the excuse that it's global warming. It's national security reasons. We have to convert to all these electric cars, that insider trading, that just Paul Pelosi, Nancy's husband, is making millions on psychically being able to pick the very companies that Nancy's Congress is going to award multi-million-dollar contracts to. Build an infrastructure for electric cars. California is passing laws that all gas cars won't be sold by a certain year in California. I don't keep up with all the absurd dates and everything else, but there's a clear central command, which you have in communism. You have your planned economy, and the central planners decide which industries are going to be the winners and which are going to be the losers, and they just happen to have all kinds of investment in the ones that are going to win, and pull their investments out of the ones that aren't designated as the future. This blissful future where everybody's going to be driving autopiloted electric cars, and somehow I was talking to one guy who'd been in one of these autopiloted Teslas. It was a high-speed crash, 60, 70 miles per hour, and I've read since the inception of these things that the accidents they get, but that's all swept under the rug, just like the Pinto exploding gas tank or what have you. It doesn't, you lose a certain amount of people, and it's all part of, OxyContin or whatever wonder drugs come out, cigarettes, this and what have you. Do I trust the government? No, I never have trusted the government. I've never trusted the government. Just, call me paranoid schizophrenic, which is what I was called before I was diagnosed with what I have, which is Asperger's syndrome. So don't listen to me because I'm mentally disordered. Anyway, where was I? I have to keep myself amused because that's all I got. Anyway, where am I? Where was I? Yeah, so Biden, right, with the stroke of a pen, we're on a digital currency system, and the global warming mantra is of course who just took power, who's the reigning monarch of England now, King Charles. That's his whole agenda. He opened up the 2020 WEF teleconference because everybody was shut down for COVID, as the to introduce the whole green movement, the AOC and Bernie Sanders wacko left, that we, and Greta Thunberg, of course. and naturally, that's why England's freezing this month, and they're expected that people are going to freeze to death. Their energy bills are 4, 5, 6, just shooting through the roof. They can't pay. Businesses are going bankrupt because the governments of the world listen to Greta, and Greta, the Asperger's syndrome, I don't know, 17-year-old or 18, is dictating uh, economic policy to the British government and ministers, and they decide in to follow the wisdom of this savant. And so now that you can't just crank up uh, generate all these plants that you've shut down. The Germans are putting their coal plants back on, and there's this mad. Of course, we're not doing anything because magically we have solar power, and we have. I keep getting ads for solar panels on my roof. Meanwhile, I'm hearing other people saying they're taking their solar panels off and throwing them out because they've destroyed the roofs that they're on, and it hasn't saved them any electricity on their electricity bills. So that's centralized command economy. This danger of having a digital currency system controlled by uh, dictatorship in the Vatican City or the Bank of England or Joe Biden is that agenda comes from the Pope, which is the Laudato Si agenda of we're going to defeat global warming, as if. I mean, who in their right mind thinks that we're having 115-degree temperatures in Sacramento, but if we shut down all our coal, the temperature is going to come back down? It's in the hands of God, my friends. All we're going to do is control the society, and once this, which I believe is going to happen. Call me a pessimist, but I believe it's going to happen, that with this digitized currency system that's going into place at the beginnings of it, going into place at the end of the month, is that with a stroke of the pen, the executive order for national security reasons, global warming reasons, each person is limited per month to the amount of energy they can use, combined in heating their houses or cooling their houses, or they're running their automobiles or taking a flight on an airplane. And you'll, just like the carbon trading credits, you'll accrue and get demerits, have that. All of that's very easily implemented and tracked on by the AI that people have plugged in the back of their brain as well with Musk's neural link. I'm a call me a Luddite, but I'm a techno skeptic. I think that the future that technology promises is the most horrific dystopia imaginable, where people are going to have bionic limbs, and DNA laboratories are going to be creating hybridized beings, by gene selecting for, you know, blue eyes and muscle, a perfect, disease-free, genetically created, which on top of spicing in pig DNA, so we'll have pig man and all of these hybrid forms. Plus there'll be aliens. Plus there'll be, call me crazy, it's like The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, and the insanity of the movie with Brando in it and Richard Scarry film. Look that up if you want to see, how sane Brando was, or watch the documentary. Anyway, let's go on. How far am I on time? I hate running so long. I'll just add, that this notion too, I watch some of the, I watch a lot of the financial stuff. I always have, like, I don't know, Jim Rickard and Peter Schiff, and I like watching Greg Manarino, Nomi Prinz, all these, more or less interesting. But my belief is that this cryptocurrencies that just will go the way of the dodo in this kind of system. It's a centralized control system is going to dominate everything. And the same thing with gold and precious metals and silvers. Precious metal is like what will happen is that the central government is controlling the value and the production and everything else of and how are you going to trade if you have a bar of gold or you have silver dollars? And just like with the 40 and 50 pound notes, if the central banks decide to cancel call them in or call them Confederate money or monopoly money or what have you, the dollar gets devalued. You don't, you switching to that. That's the whole advantage for the world planners of having a digital currency is all those things go out the window. The relative value, and there's this necessity of food and shelter are going to be the significant items, just like Walmart saying, complaining, bitching and complaining that people aren't buying all these products, even though there's plenty of supply, backlog of supply because they're buying food. That's all they can afford. Their budgets are can't afford to pay their mortgages. Mortgage, I'm not following the figures there exactly, but the housing market is kaput, and these mortgages uh, are falling, just like in the '08 crisis, with inflation going, into hyperinflation and people on their income not going up to match it. And the government, can only issue so many checks and so much debt relief, canceling student loans and whatnot. It's not really addressing the main problem. So where I am in Western Pennsylvania, Western Maryland, 1 out of 4 people, even right now, and the energy costs haven't gone up that much in America, are not paying their electric bills. And you're seeing, I'm getting ads for, since I'm a senior citizen, I can get relief and get borrow money, go further into debt for, to pay my energy bills. So you take out, you just keep adding to the debt bubble, say, oh, which eventually will just explode, and then there'll be a liquidity crisis, and then the system will lock up. And at that point, is anybody's guess. But I'll leave it there and say a prayer. How about I say a prayer? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And that's the long and short of it is prayer, spiritually prepared. Your daily bread is promised. If you lose everything, then you'll be happy. Like Klaus Schwab says, I think it's really if people can get used to the idea. And Macron's saying it. Listen to little, what's his name? Jean Emmanuel. I don't know what Macron's, Francois Macron. Macron is saying that the age of abundance is all over. All the good life of the joie de vivre and the bonsoir, monsieur, and the berets and the baguettes. You'll be lucky to have your fromage. If this only applies incidentally to the working class and not to Macron and his the 1%, the high life, and that will still go on. But there's the certainty of our salvation in Jesus Christ that Macron and these socialist Marxists don't have. So that's you all have to live your life without appeal to possessions and all these non-essentials. As far as I'm concerned, but television, who needs it? So many people are they're living in this, plastic universe. I don't think it will be such a bad thing if there is a return to basic human reality and sanity. Although I think that there's going to be a civil war. I think that there's going to be, millions of people starving and dying and all of that. So there's no way to sugarcoat, from my point of view, what's coming. But that there is the awareness of the spiritual reality that needs to be faced by every individual, and not the Oprah Winfrey, not the prosperity, not the speaking in tongues, not the third eye opening, not the Kundalini explosion in the head, not the Timothy Leary dropping acid, not the John Lennon. Imagine a beautiful utopian future with Hare Krishna and all the Masonic figures on the cover of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That's a lonely place. Anyway, until we meet again.